Hello and welcome to VMware Tanzu SQL's demo of Postgres for Kubernetes. My name is Jemish Patel and I am the tech lead for Tanzu SQL at VMware. In today's demo, we are going to be discussing how easy it is to bind an application to a Postgres instance that you deployed using the Tanzu Postgres operator. So what this video will cover is we will already have an operator installed and a Postgres instance deployed. We will then go ahead and deploy a Spring Music sample app. We will look at all the KH resources that were deployed by this application. We will also check out the application environments variables, and then we'll validate the binding by writing some data from the app and reading it from the Postgres instance. All right, let's get started. Okay, so let's check out the environment that I have set up for our demo today. First off, let's take a look at the cluster. This is a 6-node TKG cluster running on AWS. Then let's take a look at what is already deployed for us. For that, I am just going to set up a watch on the right-hand side here. So we do have a Postgres instance that is in the state running. Excellent. It does have 2 pods that are also running and a service, which is a load balancer service accessible via this URL. Excellent. So I think we have everything set up and ready to go. We have an instance. We already have an operator that provided us the instance. And now let's take a look at what we can do about the application. So for that, I am going to, I have a Spring Music sample app here, and I am going to first just request it, requesting it using this YAML. And it looks like it created a deployment and it created services or a service. Looks correct. On the right hand side here, I see a Spring Music pod getting created, and there's the deployment, and a service should be spinning up here as well shortly. Looks like it's already there, and also load balancer service, so accessible from outside via this URL. Excellent. Let's take a look briefly at what did we request. And I'm just going to cat this file and then kind of scroll to the important information. So in the definition of the app, we see a bunch of environment variables. And this is where the coordinates come in for authentication purposes and how the app actually binds to the instance. So all of the information is stored in a instance DB secret that the operator created for us when it spun up the instance. So which instance should the app bind to? Which namespace does that instance live in? What is the database name, the username, and password authentication? All right. So that's how it gets wired in into an app's environment variables. And then when we requested it, it knows how to talk to its database instance. Excellent. I am also going to look up information we need to manually connect to that instance as well. I am going to look up its host name by running a query as so. And I am also going to look at the password I'm going to need to use to make my connection manually. Okay, cool. So let's test it out. So let me just specify the host name here. And the database name is the same as the instance name. And when it asks me for a password, I shall use my super secret password for this demo. Now, because the Spring Music app is connected to this database instance, I see I see a table called album with some number of albums. All right, 29, that's good. I'm also going to gather the host name of the Spring Music service so that we can go look at it. It does have a dashboard and it's accessible on that URL. And this looks like the Spring Music app's dashboard. One thing I'll verify that the profile is Postgres, so we know it is talking with a Postgres instance. Um, the Spring Music can come up with other data stores, but in this case, it is talking to the Postgres database using Postgres connectivity drivers. Excellent. Um, so why don't we go ahead and make sure that it is talking to the correct Postgres instance. And since I've done this a little bit, I will not type and just select using my mouse. So here we have added an album. Now let's take a look at if it actually added it to the correct instance here. So it did add an album. So let's take a look and see if the new album that was added is truly the album that we added through the web interface of the application. And sure enough, that is the album we have added using the web interface of the Spring Music sample application. That concludes the demo portion of my presentation. So I want to take this time and recap what we just saw. We saw how easy it was to bind an application to a Postgres instance running in your Kubernetes cluster. We first deployed the Spring Music sample application. We looked at the K8's resources that were deployed for that application. And we looked at how the authentication coordinates were wired into the application using environment variables. That is one way you could do this binding between an app and a Postgres instance. Once we looked at all of these, we created a sample album from the Spring Music apps dashboard, which simulated a write to the Postgres instance. And we read that data back from the pSQL connection that we had manually uh, connected over to the Postgres instance with. That concludes this demonstration, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you.